Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining me. I have an important topic here today. Most of my topics are important, but anyway, exercise addiction and exercising for the wrong reasons is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So, exercise, it's good, right? How can you be exercising for the wrong reasons? You're getting exercise. That's what's important, right? And exercise addiction, well, that's a joke, right? No, it's really not. So what is exercise addiction? You might think that that means because it's not a substance or something that's going to leave you broke, like gambling or shopping addictions. You might think of it as kind of a joke. You might think, well, that just means somebody likes exercising a lot or really loves exercising, and so they're doing it a lot. But there's more to it. You can actually develop an addiction to exercise, and this can be harmful. This is dangerous for a couple, well, probably more than a couple of reasons, but I'm at least going to talk about a couple of them. When someone develops an exercise addiction, they are using exercise to avoid something, A, and they're using exercise in a similar way to the way they use a drug. They they do it for a release, a distraction, the feel-good, natural chemicals that are released during exercise. They become addicted to that, and they want more and more of it. They're not satisfied unless they're getting more and more of it. So, when people use exercise to avoid something, this in itself can be very dangerous. For one thing, whatever you're avoiding isn't going away, and it's something that probably needs to be addressed and dealt with. So by distracting yourself from that, not handling that situation, and turning to exercise instead. Though, yes, you may think, well, it's not alcohol, it's not doing any harm. It can do harm, and I'm going to get into that later. The simple fact that you are avoiding it and not addressing it can do harm, because the thing you are avoiding, depending on what you are avoiding, may cry out for attention in ways that are louder and louder. It may get louder and louder. In other words, whatever it is that's asking you to address it and deal with it, when you ignore it and turn to exercise or anything else for that matter, instead, you're simply suppressing something, and that may explode on you, may implode on you, may cry out in ways that are louder and louder until it gets your attention and you deal with it. It may cause more and more problems. So, another problem with this is when you actually are doing the exercising itself. Now, if you are using exercise to avoid something, okay, say you're using it to avoid your anger issues. So whenever you get angry, you go for a run, you go to the gym and you box or you lift weights or something of that nature. It is true that exercise is healthy, and exercise will release chemicals that can help you with some of these things. Some of the chemicals that are released during exercise reduce stress. For an example, cortisol eases anxiety. For example, it is true that getting a healthy amount of exercise and exercising in a healthful way will make you physically healthier, and that can help with your overall issues, it can help with damaging thinking, it can help with being stuck in negative emotions, and so forth. However, if you are going to exercise, if you're turning to exercise to avoid something, and in this case I'm using anger to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So if you are running away from that anger and you are running to exercise, you're really not running away from the anger exactly. It's still there, it's still with you. You're stuffing it down, and you're using exercise to distract yourself, probably to burn off some of that energy, to release some of that, and to gain access to these chemicals, these natural chemicals that are released during exercise. But say you have a fight with your spouse or your parent or whomever, and you get really angry. And instead of dealing with it in another way, you decide you're going to go for a run or go to the gym, and you're going to lift weights, you're going to box, etc. The problem arises when your focus is actually in that negative spiral. So you have this fight and you're thinking, how could they say that to me? That was so rude. I can't believe they're just disregarding my feelings like that. And how can they be so selfish? And you're thinking all of these thoughts. And at the same time, you're sitting there lifting weights. You're much more likely, because you are not as focused on what you are doing, you are much more likely to cause injury to yourself. So if you're running down the street, you're much more likely to not notice that rock in front of you and trip and fall on it. You are much more likely to just make an error with your body mechanics, trip yourself up, or spraying something, or you're just much more likely to get injuries regardless of what exercise you are doing. So that is one reason why using exercise to avoid something is not healthy. So there's two reasons why that is not healthy. I'm going to give you some resources. I've been watching some YouTube videos by a woman named Teal Swan. And she has a process for integrating emotions that I really like, I think is really valuable, so I'm going to share that with you. She has some other videos also that I found really useful. I don't agree with quite everything she's said that I've heard, but I'm probably going to say that with every single person that I talk about, because that's normal for people to have slightly different, everybody's got a different perspective, we're all in different bodies experiencing life from a different point of view, so it would be kind of weird if everybody or anybody agreed completely about every single thing. So at any rate, it's a good idea for health and wellness for us to not suppress our emotions, our problems, our negative thinking with exercise or anything else. It's healthy for us to do the right thing. So I'm gonna give you some links to a couple Teal videos that I like and think are really beneficial and helpful. Alright, so that's not quite all I wanted to say. I want to talk a little more about the addiction, because you can use exercise as an avoidance tool or tactic and a coping mechanism sort of way, and not be addicted to it. In the same way that, a person can get upset and decide to go to the bar and drink, they're using alcohol to avoid what's going on in the moment. That doesn't mean that they do it every time or they're addicted to alcohol. So they're two different things. Exercise addiction is sort of where exercise addiction is the point on the path where if you keep using exercise to avoid things, after a while, you're apt to become addicted to it. So hopefully everyone understands, and I'm making that clear enough. If a person had a rough day and they are using some sort of technique of avoidance, such as drinking alcohol or going shopping or watching TV to avoid and distract themselves from something, that is different than being addicted to something, whereas every time you get into an emotional or mental or even physical, it can be body pain or something you want to distract yourself from, every time you get into that place, you feel a pull where you need to go watch TV. You are just waiting till you can get home and watch TV. That's how you deal with the stress of your workday. You come home and you watch TV right away. If that doesn't happen, you're jonesing for it. That's when you become addicted. So yes, people can get addicted to exercise. Of course they can, sure. So there's still the same issues with that. You may or may not get better at being able to focus on the exercise rather than whatever it is you're distracting yourself from. Once you're addicted to it because you've been practicing using it as a coping mechanism for so long. The thing about that is say that you've developed a pattern now where you not only turn to exercise when you've had a fight, but you shut off the voices in your head. So say you get in this fight with your spouse or your parent or whoever, and you're upset and you walk out and you let it all go and you're like, I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to lift weights, and that's what you're thinking about, and you get there and that's all you're thinking about is the exercise you're going to be doing. Believe it or not, you are actually still at a higher risk of injury than somebody who is going into exercising for the right reasons. Because it's still with you, it's subconscious. You have still stuffed it down, it's still in your subconscious mind. So while you may not be consciously having these thoughts and going through your anger, your emotions, your thoughts about it, you may be focused on whatever exercise you're partaking in. It's still in the back of your mind and it can still pop up with intensity. With a demanding, you must hear me now, with the emotions behind it. So it is still dangerous in that respect. Also, when you are exercising in an if you're addicted to exercise, you're really missing a lot that the person who is going in and exercising from a place of self-love is gaining. People can develop disorders around that so that they're unable to keep their exercise addiction up, such as body image issues. So you develop an addiction to exercise, and you're going in and you're exercising, and instead of seeing improvements and going, oh, this is nice, and enjoying them and saying, oh, it feels good to be able to lift more, it feels good to have a firmer stomach, it feels good to be stronger, it feels good to have more energy, your mind will hold on to a negative and it will spin a negative, and it can become similar to anorexia, where you think that you are not thin enough, and no matter how much time goes by that you don't eat, and no matter how much weight you lose, you still look at yourself and see yourself as unattractive and see yourself as someone who has fat that they need to get rid of. Exercise addiction can do similar things. No matter how much muscle you build, no matter how much you do, you can develop a situation where no matter how big your muscles are, no matter how much of whatever it is you have done, rather than see it for what it is, you see it as not good enough. Your muscles are not big enough. You are not strong enough. You you can't run far enough or fast enough or whatever. So you have this perpetual dissatisfaction, and you are trying to quench a thirst, really, that you will not allow yourself to quench. It's like drinking salt water to try and quench your thirst and hydrate yourself. So that's another negative aspect of it. There is also such a thing as overtraining. So if you are, you are potentially susceptible to overtraining, depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it, and at what level you are at fitness-wise when you develop this addiction. So there are a lot of reasons why it, like any addiction, is unhealthy, and how it can be harmful. It can be harmful both on the physical plane, like I mentioned, increased injuries, overtraining injuries, and so forth. It can be harmful on a psychological or mental plane, and an emotional one, whereas whatever you're avoiding is going to keep growing and bubbling under the surface. And also because you can develop this disorder of not finding it to ever be enough, never be good enough for you, and to not find satisfaction in your gains. So, yes, exercise addiction is a real thing. I am against it. Using exercise as an avoidance technique is also a real thing, and there are problems with it. I think the main one I pointed out was the physical problems, and the bubbling. But there are other problems with it as well. Really, the best exercise is good, and the best way to come to exercise and at exercise is from a point of self-love, to come to it because you want to take care of your body, because you want to be healthier, you want to feel better, you want to be happier, you want to have more energy for yourself so you can experience life in a more pleasurable way. So another poor reason to exercise, which a lot of people I think fall trap to, and I think it is a leading reason why people are so unsuccessful with achieving their fitness goals. And that is because they're really not your goals to begin with. A lot of people feel that they need to exercise, and oftentimes think that they want to exercise for reasons that are not self-loving. Oftentimes it's avoidance. It's a socially imposed thing. So to give some examples so people can understand this, because this is really common. The person who sets a New Year's resolution to lose 20 pounds because they want to be more comfortable going to the beach with their friends, and they want to be invited to, parties where only skinny girls are going. This person is not exercising from a place of self-love. They're exercising from a place of, I'm not good enough, therefore I must fix me to be good enough for someone else so that I'm accepted. The person who thinks that they're unattractive to women because they don't have enough muscles, who have friends who have more muscle than they do, who feel inferior because they don't, when they flex, their muscles aren't as big as the people who they're around. They're also exercising. They decide, well, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to build this up. They're also exercising from a place of society's imposition on them. They're wanting to fit in. They're wanting to, they're thinking they're not good enough for women. They're wanting to be able to attract women, to be good enough to attract women. They're wanting to avoid pain and humiliation or the feelings of inferiority that they feel when they're around their buddies and their buddies are all shirtless. So these really aren't the place to come from for success, really. So I think I'm going to wrap this video up with that. If more comes to me and I want to get into any of this deeper, or have more to share, I'm going to write it down and I'll do another video for you. But if you have questions or comments, suggestions for videos, anything like that, please feel free to send it my way. I love this being a two-way street where there's communication. I'm not just communicating to you, but I'm receiving feedback as well. So please do not hesitate. You are not bothering me or wasting my time. Alright, so I'm going to wrap this up. Everyone, remember, exercise safely, do it for the right reasons, and check where you're coming from. Also, check out the Teal videos. They're wonderful. Be well.